Jana, we're chatting about audience growth mistakes that you might be making when you are trying to grow in this online business world. We have each a couple of things, but I wanted to throw one at you right away that I saw early on in this YouTube journey on this channel. And I actually decided from the very beginning to do my YouTube channel this way. And that was to involve my audience, even if there was only one person watching my videos,
Mhm.
which, in the beginning, my weekly videos might have gotten 20 views. That's 20 different people watching the videos, generally,
Mhm.
right? Could you imagine 20 people sitting in your living room asking questions about the thing that you do?
Right. Yep.
No. Please do not come to my house. You are not
Yeah.
inside. But on YouTube, it was easier for me to continue making content and to get inspired to make content when I just asked them what they want
Mm,
instead of assuming what they wanted.
love it. Yeah. And in terms of like audience growth in general, do you think that doing that, like how did that help you grow your audience and what would have happened if you didn't do that? If you made the mistake of like not asking people, whether it's people who are like in your audience or just people in general, like what they wanted and ignoring that part of the process, like what would have happened if you made the mistake of doing that?
I think there would have been kind of an avalanche of things that would have happened. First of all, it wouldn't have built the culture around this YouTube channel and ultimately my membership that I have today, which
Mhm.
is very opening, very welcoming, very like transparent, like come and go as you please, let me know what you need. Like I'm super
Yep.
eager to help people in whatever way that I can. And that sometimes means like someone will send me a DM and be like, hey, Pinterest banners changed and I can't figure it out. And I will send them a 4-minute Loom video back saying, here is how to do it. It took
Hmm.
me 4 minutes out of my day. And now I've solidified with that person in my audience that I know what I'm talking about and they should trust me.
Hmm.
Therefore, they continue watching my content, they continue reading my emails and eventually get into the membership.
Yeah.
So, by doing that earlier on and really building my mindset around just being a helper,
Hmm.
I feel like it propelled my audience because they were watching my videos, they were sharing my videos with their friends. And it really helped me to grow the agency side as well because I built
Yep.
that trust.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I love that. And just to kind of give like a quick idea of what we talk about when we talk about audience growth, and we did like a series on audience growth that we will link in the description of this video if anyone wants to go watch that series, where we talked about like the different kinds of audience growth and like kind of our best tips and tricks and things that have worked for us with those types of audience growth. So we talked about, I think, social media audience growth, email list growth, which is a really important one. And then we talked about growing with collaborations, and then there was a fourth one. I can't remember what it was. But when we talk about audience growth, we're really talking about growing the people who see your content and see you and are like exposed to whatever you're communicating on like a regular basis. That's how I would like define an audience. So when we say grow an audience, we're talking about growing wherever it is that you show up online. So social media, for you, it's YouTube. Both of us grow our email list. So those are the different kinds of places where you can do that. And then we had this like 4-part series about like the how you can do that and how it's like what tactics have worked for us. And I think audience growth is like such an important lever. And if you think about it at a very simple level, sales is really like growing your audience and selling to your audience.
Mhm.
Growing your audience and selling to your audience are kind of like those two levers that most people feel. I definitely, I'll speak for myself and feel like I need to be kind of pulling in order to be able to see consistent revenue and sales, from my offers. So when we talk about like these audience growth mistakes, the things that we have done that have worked, the things that we see other people doing that don't work or that slow them down or whatnot, that's kind of like what we're talking about. So I wanted
Yeah.
to just like mention that. Um, and you mentioned growing the agency side too. And so do you mean growing the agency side of your business with clients? But I
Mhm.
think you're also talking about growing the audience that you have for the agency side. And the agency
Yeah.
side of your business is people who hire you for and your team for like more done for you work. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm curious, like, do you feel like your audience for that kind of work is also on your YouTube and your emails? Is that the
Mhm.
same kind of audience or is it different? Just curious.
Yeah, they're all there. I was actually surprised by this at
Hmm.
first as well,
Yeah.
but I
Hmm.
think it's a vetting thing. They are just looking to verify that they feel comfortable with the way that I do things. There's
Yep.
consistency throughout what I'm talking about, and there is.
Hmm.
And they're always shocked. I've had a number of clients that would watch YouTube videos, try to do things on their own, join my email list, respond to an email with a problem they're having, and then be like, you know what? I think I'll just hire you.
Yeah.
This will save me so much time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're on a little bit of a tangent, but I always think that, and it's kind of a mistake. It's not one of the ones I brought to talk about, but I think sometimes we think like, oh, I'm trying to seek a more advanced audience, like people who are further along in business, who have the budget to hire for done for you work. They're not going to be like in my audience, so to speak, on like, YouTube or emails or whatnot. And every time I feel like somebody that I know like digs into that to find out if it's really true, we discover it's not true, that they actually
Yeah.
are there.
Hmm.
I wrote an email once to my list about like because my offer high leverage content, my program is for people who want to write blog posts that convert. And one of the objections I get sometimes from people who do done for you services is like, well, what if I have an advanced audience and they don't read blogs or they don't consume content? And I think what you just said there a minute ago is so important. Like they do, but it's not always for the same reasons.
Right.
They might not be consuming it to know how to do it. They're just consuming it to like see that you know your stuff to kind of like vet you. So I think that's really a
Well,
good point
and
that you make there.
on the flip side of it, and we are a little bit off topic, and I promise
Mhm.
I'll right the ship in a second.
I did it.
It,
I did
no, it's
it.
fine. I started it. So I have had clients come through the YouTube channel because they thought, oh, I can just do this myself. I can
Hmm.
just set up my ads on Pinterest. I ran my Facebook ads. Like, it's fine. I'll do
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Let me just go watch these videos. They find me, they watch the videos, they set it up, and they realize, oh, there's something missing here.
Hmm.
And then they hire.
Yeah.
And they had the budget all along, but they thought, oh, it won't be that difficult, or
Yep.
oh, this platform seems really easy.
Yep.
I just have to make pins and put them on my boards and people will flock. No, like
Yep.
there's so much more. And once
Yep.
they realize that, that's when they shift. And that is part of the reason why I have involved my audience in my content from the beginning, even when I was only getting 20 views a week, because I need to know what problems they're having because that helps me to create the content. I actually do a public YouTube live, not a public YouTube live, a public Q&A that only people on my email list at a certain time in their journey and my email list get an invite to. And
Mm.
I'm not going to tell you when because you'll get the invite if you're on my email list. When you qualify, you'll get the invite. And I have about 90 people a month sign up for this public Q&A,
Wow.
but only about 5 people attend.
Yeah.
In that
That makes sense
one
because
hour,
when the
those,
rubber hits the road, right?
yeah, in that 1 hour, those five
Mhm.
people get so much help from me.
Yep.
But that like opens up my mind because
You
I'm
get
working
so
with
much
them.
from them in terms of content ideas and
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly. So then I
Hmm.
can further serve my audience even more, the wider audience even more, just
Yeah.
from like the people that come or whatever. So
Mm.
don't discount the people that are in your audience, even if it's tiny.
Yeah. I think, yeah, maybe the takeaway there or the mistake, even though it wasn't one of the four we planned to talk about, is like don't assume things about your audience and especially don't let like your mindset gremlins
Yeah.
in various ways like force you sort of to assume things that aren't positive about your audience. And one of the mistakes we're going to talk about does actually kind of relate to that. So we'll come back to that. But yeah. Hmm.
That's what I wanted to I wanted to toss at you.
I love it.
What are your
Okay.
thoughts?
Yeah.
What do
So
you have?
I brought two. And the first one is I see a lot of people in my audience who are making the mistake of um, waiting to create content until they have a bigger audience. And sometimes like when I point it out to them and they realize that it's a mistake, but without being aware of it, they kind of will like go along and almost like unconsciously or subconsciously be waiting to create content because they don't think there's enough people out there that'll see what they create. This happens for me a lot when especially when I'm like launching high leverage content, and I sell it on Evergreen sometimes too, but I'll do a few
Mhm.
launches a year. So these days, and I will ask people, um, like what their questions are about HLC during the launch so I can answer them in emails. And a lot of times people will say like, well, I don't think I have a big enough audience to join right now because I don't want to start writing content if they're, if I only have like 3 people on my email list, because that way when I send it out, only 3 people will see it, or I only have 25 Instagram followers. And, if I share my piece of content that I wrote on Instagram, what are the odds of, even those 25 seeing it? And like 3 of them are people that I know who are from my town, who are even my ideal audience. And, that's where like some of those assumptions come in. Um, and what I always like end up saying to them, and this is the thing that I really want to get across, that it is a mistake to not start writing like high quality strategic content. And I think that should be long form content to start until
Mhm.
you feel like you have more people out there who are waiting to get it from you. Because, and here's the thing, people follow and subscribe to coaches and service providers and everybody else. I just happen to work with coaches and service providers, but whom
Mhm.
they want to see more content from. It's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing, because in order to attract people who want to consume your content, you need to publish attractive content that's attractive to them. And sometimes we don't think of of it that way if we're thinking sort of technically about like content. Content is there to convert our current audience to buyers, but it's also there to attract people to our audience.
Yep.
And so it's really, really important that you don't, stop or like stop yourself and not do the work, because otherwise you're just going to stay invisible essentially. And usually when I point that out to people, they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. And then the nice thing about long form content and the kind of content that you and I have always prioritized in our business, which is blog posts, which is what I teach in HLC, YouTube videos, which the HLC frameworks also work for, podcast episodes, things like that that are more evergreen. These are not things that just get lost in your Instagram news feed, right? You post about them and then they're kind of gone because the next thing comes up. Um, when you have this kind of evergreen content, you can share it with those 3 people now, and you can share it with those 25 people now. And then 2 months from now, or even sooner, you can share it again in the same way or in a new way, with the people who have grown, who have been added to your audience during that period of time, because we want to be pulling both of those levers, right? Like growing our audience and also putting content out there to our audience that nurtures and sells to them. Um, so that's really, I think, the biggest mistake that I see people make. And there's a lot of mindset stuff kind of wrapped up in it that, we could talk about, but that's kind of the overview. It's sort of a whole topic in and of itself. But that's really the realization that we have to come to. And I'll just say it one more time. People will when we say grow your audience, we mean get people to follow you on social, get people to subscribe to your email list, get people to read your blog posts, right? These are the things, to subscribe to your YouTube channel, to come watch your YouTube videos regularly. And people, again, follow and subscribe to people, other people, coaches, service providers, whoever, right? Who are creating content and they want more of that content. That is what gets people to become part of your audience, right? Is that attractive content. So we need to be creating and putting out there attractive content in order to attract them, into our audience as well. So that's like, I think that's just really important. And it seems like it's really basic, but I feel like it's a mindset pitfall that like so many people fall into. So that's mine. That's my first one.
I can say that I probably have done that. And I mean, I am working on a new program that will come out next year that I put off forever because I felt like, oh, I don't have the right, you know, offer. I don't have the right messaging, or I don't have the right whatever. I feel like there's
Mm,
always something underneath what's
not
actually
quite
holding
ready.
us back. Yeah, I'm not
Right.
quite. So kind of digging into that and really figuring out what's holding you back. I mean, if you legitimately
Hmm.
are holding back because you don't have a website and you don't know how to create one and you don't have the money to hire someone to do it, like let's watch some YouTube videos and get it done. But like other than that, creating good blog content, don't wait.
Hmm. I even tell people not to wait to write it, even if your website's still under construction, because the amount of the massive, massive amount of clarity that my students get from using
Yeah.
my 9 and 2 pillars, to figure out what it is that their audience needs to hear and learn and understand to be ready to buy, just
Hmm.
writing in a Google Doc. gives that clarity and also lights that fire under their butts so that they're excited to get their website up so they can post these, these posts and start
Mhm.
sending people to them. So like you just don't want to stay in this like cycle of inaction because it's really gonna
Inaction
just suck you right down like the undertow, man.
it's not going to get you anywhere. Quite
Right.
literally, you have to do the work. You have to do, and if the work just means writing in a Google Doc to gain clarity, I think that's valuable work that you're doing.
Yep. Yep.
It helps you to think through, what your people might be needing or whatever. And then eventually you're going to be ready and you're going to have that website published and you can publish those blogs or you can publish those YouTube videos. I don't know how many friends I've told, like, your content and like what you offer would be so good if you just put it on YouTube.
Mm,
Might take you a year to get monetization or whatever, or it might take you 6 months in order to start seeing sales to your offers or whatever. But like your content and like what you offer is so good, it deserves to be on
mm,
YouTube. Like, please put it on YouTube. And then you
hmm
put it off and put it off and put it off, and like it never happens. And sometimes they come back and they're like, I wish I would have started on YouTube already. Like,
Right. Right.
I don't care if you just create screen shares and you don't ever
Yep.
show your face. Like, what
Yep.
you have to offer is so valuable, and the right people will find you.
Isn't it
And then
funny
you
how
can
like
start asking those people what they need, and then you're going to be like so surprised.
right, you open up that feedback loop. And it's just so funny, like just random commentary, how like sometimes people who have the best ideas and the most amazing content and the most like life-changing things are like, oh yeah, I don't know if I have all these reasons why I'm not going to start on YouTube or I'm not going to start a blog or whatever. Meanwhile, people who have like dumb things to say
I
are just
know.
like, I'm starting a YouTube channel and darn it, they do it. And they are out there and they are growing that audience and people are sometimes even like buying what they're selling, even though it's not so good. It's so ironic that, all the wrong people have imposter syndrome,
I
basically,
know.
It's like, it's so funny. But anyway, we digress. So,
Okay, so back to me. I think another mistake that people make is, and I feel like I have done this, but I've actually done it successfully, Jana.
mhm.
And that is kind of like boxing yourself in. Um,
Mm,
I've boxed myself into Pinterest.
mhm.
And I've occasionally tiptoed around creating content strategy videos or email marketing or
Mm,
like, here's how I do this thing on Shopify. And I want to do more of those things. I do want to grow beyond just talking about Pinterest. But I think one of the reasons why I've done this so well, it goes back to the first thing I said of like involving my audience, because my audience is involved in the content creation process. What I can offer around Pinterest marketing has evolved as the platform has evolved with the people involved. I feel like I'm still able to talk about this one niche. So I think sometimes it can work out. It just depends on what you're boxing yourself into.
mhm.
But in other moments, there have been times where I've just felt like regret that I didn't talk about other things sooner
Mm.
to grow more of an audience for those other things. But it has
But you
definitely made
did.
me really
But
good at the one thing.
yeah. But you did. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those things where I think the mistake of boxing yourself in, what we mean by that is like you are basically talking all the time about one thing and you don't do enough content that's like unique or personality driven. You don't share your values, things like that.
Yeah.
So people are attached to the concept that you teach about, not so much to you. And I think it's really hard to end up really doing that if you don't like because you have such a good, strong personal brand, Heather, and you do share your values and your personality. And here's the other thing about Pinterest marketing, and this is what happened with me too, is like it's not just Pinterest that you teach about, it's Pinterest marketing.
Yeah.
And there's two kind of parts of that. One is like Pinterest and like, okay, how does Pinterest work? How do people use Pinterest in the sense of like, we need to understand that so we can successfully get in front of them and whatnot, right?
Mhm.
Where are the buttons that we have to push on Pinterest? How can we look at the Pinterest app and see what things are working and what things aren't, things like that. And then there's the marketing part, where you also need to be a good marketer. You need to understand messaging. You need to understand
Mhm.
graphic design. You need to, so, you over the years have mastered all of those pieces and you've talked about all of those things. And along the way, you've also talked about how you run your business, how you handle clients,
Yeah.
how to add Pinterest to your, like, your list of services if you're a social media manager. Like, there's a lot of things you've talked about that are
Yeah.
like
Oh, look at me.
adjacent to Pinterest. Adjacent to Pinterest. So I don't know. I personally don't think you boxed yourself in, but I think that a lot of people make the mistake of doing it. And I think the way that you avoid that is to make sure, again, you share your values, you share yourself,
Mhm.
and you're really not faceless at all. In fact, you're the opposite. You're sharing your own personal brand so that whenever you have something new to offer, literally
Mhm.
new that you're offering that people that you want people to buy, that they'll buy it not because it has to do with this one thing they started following you for, but they'll buy it because they love learning from you, you know? So,
I kind of just had a bit of a realization, and it's not like the first time I've had this realization, but like
mm,
in this way,
yeah, I know what you
kind of
mean.
I think of myself and the business and the content that I create and the offers that I sell as like a solar system, with me being right in the middle of that, and all the planets are like the different offers and the different topics.
Yeah,
And some of them will swing out and they'll come back around at much later times, and some will be really close, like, Mars or Mercury, and they'll be
yeah.
like there all the time.
Mhm.
But then all of these other kind of things are like, orbiting around me in the middle.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Not necessarily boxed in. It's just it's how those things are kind of slingshotting around
Circling and
me.
yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. I think I like that image. I can see how that would come from that, from this realization or this concept. And you and I both know this, that basically the subtext here that maybe our viewers are getting and maybe they're not is that we're talking about a new offer that you may have coming out soon
Yeah.
that is going to be different, but also capitalize on everything that you've ever learned and taught and done. So
Yeah.
it's exciting,
Ooh, so
exciting.
exciting.
Adding a little planet to your solar system
I am.
or a
Are we
big
bringing
planet.
we're bringing Pluto back? You guys should probably know this about me as I share more about myself, as Jana says.
Yeah.
I love astronomy things.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like such a huge space nerd.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So
It almost feels like if you ever rebranded, maybe you rebrand around that
a
concept.
space theme.
Wouldn't that be neat? It'd be kind of cool, when you think about your
Have like little planets.
marketing as a solar system and teach other people to think of their marketing as a solar system.
Your marketing solar system. I'm gonna go look at that domain right now because I don't want someone else to take it.
Your marketing solar system. Oh, don't we shouldn't be saying that live. Quick, do it
Oh
while
my, oh my gosh. It's
is
probably
it
already taken.
oh, maybe.
Actually, Namecheap's been down for a few days.
No.
I
Buy it on
tried to
Go
buy a domain last week and it was down.
buy it on GoDaddy.
Oh no,
No?
no.
Okay.
I only buy on
Namecheap.
Namecheap.
Okay.
Okay. Tell me what your next mistake is.
Okay, meanwhile, go get that. Um, So, one mistake that I definitely see people make a lot, especially my coaches and service providers in particular, is they think they need to have a huge audience to be successful in their business. Like they need to have the kind of audience that like the influencers in their space, I'm going to put that in air quotes, have in order to make
Hmm.
a good living at the work that they do. And the fact of the matter is like it's just math. When you are a coach or a service provider and your offer is some kind of one-to-one work or even a group coaching program, you do not have to have a massive audience. You only need to have an audience that is large enough, if you will, that when you put your offers out there, like X number of people like will buy them. And that's a very simplified way to think about it. So I know it's like not that easy, Jenna. I get it.
Yep.
But like you don't need to have 100,000, followers on Instagram. You don't have to have 1 million followers on Instagram. You don't need to have, a 9,000 person email list. Some of the most successful coaches and service providers that I know, and even course creators to some degree. Like I'm a course creator, but my course costs $9.97, so I'm kind of like in the middle there, course creator slash coach. Some of the most
Yep.
successful people I know who really focus, especially in the beginning, on selling their one-to-one services, have really small email lists. One of my coaches that I work with has a really small email list, and yet she makes, I think for revenue for her company right now is like around 700,000 a year. And she has a small team, so it's not like that's profit, but like you can make a really good living as a coach or a service provider and make make the kind of money that you want to in your business to have the freedom you want. You
Yeah.
know what I'm thinking right now, Heather. Um, to, you know, without having a huge list because you are not an influencer, right? And I think what happens is a lot of like, I'm thinking of health coaches specifically, but this applies to all niches of coaching, really.
Yeah.
Um, you come into the space and you're looking at all these health influencers on Instagram, for example, and they all are monetizing differently than you are. They're not at the point in their business right now. Maybe they were in the beginning, but they're not anymore, or they never
Yeah.
were, where they're selling one-to-one coaching. You know what I mean? Like, what's her name? Shailene.
Johnson?
Yeah, like Shailene Johnson. Like if you discover her on Instagram as a health coach, and you might because she's got like a lot of algorithm behind her and whatnot, you can't like book a call with Shailene Johnson and like be like she can't be your health coach. Like
No.
she doesn't do that anymore. You know what I mean? And if you want people booking calls to be so that you can be their health coach, like that's a different business model than what Shailene Johnson's business model is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to need those million followers or whatever that she has. I don't know how she started. Maybe in the beginning she probably did start as like
She
a
started as a
B2C health
Beachbody.
coach. Okay.
I think she was a Beachbody coach, and
hmm
that was an MLM. I don't know if it exists anymore.
Okay, yeah, so that might not be the best example, but my point is like I've said it over, so obviously it's clear, but like it's just that like you don't be intimidated and think that that's where you need to get before you can be creating content that sells and be making really good money in your business. You do not need, you know, to be comparing yourself in any way, shape, or form, let alone with like number of people in your audience, whether that's number of followers, number of people on your email list or whatever, with people who aren't monetizing the same way you are, with people who are monetizing with brand deals
Yep.
and with affiliate links and, you know, with like JV partnerships with people like Amy Porterfield and, you know, people like that. So yeah, that's just my point is like you don't need a huge audience that you sometimes think you do. So usually most, I think, health coaches I know that come into the space and they go through a period where they think that, and then they realize that the math isn't like the math is mathing. I want to say the math isn't mathing, but it will math, and you don't need that. You can start signing clients with your content with a small audience.
Yeah.
So okay, that's it. I feel like I said that over and over again, 10 different ways, but
Well,
that's what I was trying to get to.
that was definitely true for me. I started selling my services through my YouTube channel very
Mhm.
early on,
Yep. Like
in
when you had
2021.
how many subscribers do you think back
Oh
then from your
gosh,
YouTube
like I
channel?
hadn't even monetized yet,
hmm
and I was
Like
selling services to clients
so was
from
that
YouTube videos.
like 500 people maybe subscribers on
Yeah,
YouTube
less than
or
1,000
hmm
subscribers, less than 4,000 watch hours.
Yep.
I mean, it took me a full year to get to like 1,200 subscribers from the time I started my channel. And I remember like
Yep.
every morning going to the kids' school, like opening YouTube Studio and being like, okay, where are we at today? And then telling my husband, and he's like so excited for me, like, oh my
Amazing.
gosh, you have 80
Yeah.
subscribers. Like,
I think I remember those days. How many subscribers did you have like when we started Clubhouse together, our Clubhouse club?
that was pre-monetization. So
Yeah. So it
less
was
than a
around that time,
thousand,
right?
less than 4,000. Yeah, I was still
Yeah.
so new because the Clubhouse
Yeah.
started just, I started in Clubhouse December 2020.
hmm
Then we started Clubhouse together January 2021.
Like we started our
And
club. We were already on stage together in groups and stuff, but we started our
prior to that,
club
yeah.
a year later. Yeah. Which we ran for
Yeah,
like 2 years. We were so consistent and so
yeah.
like dedicated over there. Yep.
So yeah, I was definitely selling services to people that were
Yep.
coming from my YouTube channel. And one of the very first ones I sold was an $800 package for advertising to run ads
Yeah.
for somebody.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not a
And
lot
then
of money to run
20,
ads.
no, and then, all of 2021, that was kind of haphazard. It came and went.
hmm
And then 2022, it just blew up.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And like for our listeners, you know, you have a choice in business. Like you can either have like a multi-pronged business like Heather does. And one of the reasons I think, Heather, you've been able to have this multi-pronged business, meaning that you have the agency where you have done for you clients, but you also are monetized on YouTube. And when I say monetized, I mean like you get money from YouTube ads because people are watching
Mhm.
your videos so much. You know, you make affiliate commissions sometimes, things like that. One of the
Hmm.
reasons you've been able to do that is because you decided early on that you loved creating content and you're a very content heavy business
Yep.
and it comes really naturally to you. A lot of the people I work with, like in high leverage content, they simply want to book out their one-to-one services. And yeah, they'd like to have a group program, maybe a course as well.
Hmm.
Um, but like not everyone has to be aiming to have like this huge audience like you do. But
No.
this for you, it's worked really well because you are a big content creator and
Yep.
you've been able to generate like these multiple streams of revenue, which is amazing. Um,
Yeah,
but
you
you know,
definitely don't need.
yeah, I guess what I'm kind of saying, like you're kind of that person, like you're the Shailene Johnson right now. I mean, like you've gotten to the point like in your space where like you're one of the big names in your space, you know? And so um like that is possible for anyone who's watching as
Mhm.
well, but it's also not what you have to do. It's not the way you have to
No,
run your business.
no. And
Yep.
yeah, you're definitely free to sell out your one-on-one offers consistently. And part of that is just going to be continuing your lead gen. And how are you going to do that? Well, talk to your audience.
Hmm.
Make sure you keep that flow of communication with those people in your audience that are consuming your content, because there's going to come a time when you feel stuck
Yeah.
and you're just like, what do I write next? Or what do I film next?
Yep.
Um, okay.
And I was just realizing that you and I did a YouTube live series a while back about different ways to do market research, I think is what we called it.
I think so.
And so I'll go back and I'll also add that to the description of this video so that anyone who's watching now live can go back later when I add it. Or anyone who's watching on the replay, you'll find that link already in the description so that if
Right.
you are thinking, okay, yeah, I want to talk to my audience more about what they need, you'll have some ways from us to get started doing that or to deepen your ability to do that.
Yeah, no, I think those are super helpful and you
Yeah.
should definitely check them out. Well, the last thing that I really wanted to chat about, and I don't know if you mentioned this one already. I feel like you haven't. It was on your list, but the
Mm.
freebie seekers thought.
Yeah.
Can we unpack that a little bit? Because
Yep.
I've never had a problem with promoting a free offer and then selling off the back of it, but I feel like it's a mindset issue and
Hmm.
less of an audience issue or a
Yeah.
messaging issue.
Yeah, it is. I think it's mostly a mindset issue. And so the thing we're talking about, the mistake that we see people with making with their audience growth is thinking that freebies only attract freebie seekers.
Hmm.
Having this mindset that like people are just getting my information for free and running off with it and not they have no intention of buying or they um don't want to buy from me or like they'll never buy or they don't have the budget or like whatever it is, they're just seeking freebies. And I think that of several years ago or a few years ago, some of the business coaches in our space started talking about this idea that, you should have a tiny offer instead of a freebie because if you charge $12 for something or $37 for something, the people that buy that are going to be more likely to convert to buyers. And while I kind of understand that, I also think that that dialogue or that, what's the word, that narrative was really created and propelled by people who wanted you to buy their courses about how to create tiny offers. And so there was like this backlash for a while against lead magnets and freebies. And Heather and I are here to tell you that freebies and lead magnets are still, in my opinion, and I know you'll agree with me, Heather, one of the absolute best ways to grow your audience quickly. And the great thing about freebies and lead magnets is usually it's growing your email list, which turns around and in turn can grow your other audiences. Because when I think about audience growth, I'm always trying to grow my email list and I'm using my email list to grow in other places as well, right? So it's and to sell obviously my offer and to, provide people with the information they need from me to understand why they want my offer, not all in that order. So I think that the mindset that like, oh, if I have a freebie, then it's just going to attract freebie seekers is a big, big misstep when it comes to growing your audience, and you will more successfully grow your audience when you offer freebies. And someone who's watching this who still has this mentality may be thinking, yeah, but why grow a big audience if they're not going to buy? And that's the thing is like, we're here to tell you that a lot of those people buy. You do have to learn how to sell to them with your content.
Yeah.
And I also think a lot of people who say freebie seekers are only, freebie people are only freebie seekers. They say that because they haven't learned how to write content that sells their offer. And I say that, as a coach slash course creator who helps coaches write content that sells their offer. So like obviously I might be a little biased there too, but I think that's a lot of that narrative as well. So yeah, I mean, Heather, over the years, I mean, I know you've had fantastic success with free resources that
Oh
add
yeah.
people to your email list. I have too. I don't know if you have anything to add there as far as, what's worked well for you or what's been your like number one best freebie over the years, do you think, in terms of audience growth and conversions?
The organic Pinterest strategy guide has been number one. And
Mhm.
then when I added this in, I feel like it's been almost 2 years, but I can't remember how long ago. And I'm
Mhm.
working on a reboot, is the Pinterest keyword workshop
Mhm.
was number two. And I used the Pinterest keyword workshop to launch the academy the second time.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Wait,
I guess
wasn't
it was technically the first time I had like officially launched it, but the academy was already like 2 years old when I did that. And we're
wasn't the
circling around 4.
wasn't the keyword workshop paid though?
I ended up making it free because I tested out
Oh,
trying to
holy
make it paid
cow.
for the first like 2 weeks that I was promoting it, and
Yeah.
there was no one signing up.
Yeah.
So I made it
I'm not
free.
surprised by that because keywords, like, it's hard to sell them sometimes. Yeah.
I made it free and then had a 5-figure launch.
Amazing. Right. And if you had said, like, oh, if you had stuck to your guns and been like, no, I'm not giving that away for free. It's too valuable and I don't want to only attract freebie seekers, you would not have had a $5,000 launch. I mean, a 5-figure launch.
Yeah.
5,000. 5-figure. That's more than 5,000, Jana. You would not have had that successful launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely working on a
Perfect.
reboot of
Perfect
that because
example.
I'm so like I love doing that workshop and people love watching that workshop and I have new methods I want to add to the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So number one is the Pinterest strategy guide. Number two has been the Pinterest keyword workshop. And behind that, I actually have a YouTube video planned for this, but behind those things, I have very strategic email sequences that are designed to connect, nurture, and sell.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Yep.
work very well.
Yep. Yep. So
What
my
about you?
my biggest audience growth freebie over the years, I've tested out a bunch of different things. Not as many as some people. I don't test out tons of things. I'm more of like a stick to a strategy gal, but
Yeah,
has been my 5 secrets for using Pinterest to grow your audience on autopilot and get
good
clients
webinar.
webinar. And it's specifically for coaches and service providers who want to use Pinterest to get clients. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very niche in that way. It's not for like e-com sellers, product sellers.
Yep.
It's not really for digital product sellers, although I've had some of them take it and enjoy it. But so because that and that just like converted for so long for me. And the interesting thing about that, the one of the reasons it makes it a really good anecdote story is what I mean by that, not antidote. I always get those two confused. For this conversation that we're having, is that for years I had a funnel behind that, and that converted
Mhm.
really well. And then in the last couple of years, maybe the last year or so, it's still converting, but it's not converting as high, that funnel.
Yeah.
And probably because I haven't like really updated it a lot or whatever, like the actual emails themselves, not the offer, but the emails. And people join my email list through that masterclass. And then they're on my email list and they end up sometimes, like some of them, a good number of them end up buying high leverage content because that's what I'm selling more of these days. Right. And the
And it's
connection
really
there,
what they need in order to put content on Pinterest.
it totally is. That's exactly the connection. But my point there is like you can have a free resource that grows your audience with a funnel behind it to convert them, or you can have a free resource that grows your audience and just sell all of your things to the people who are coming on your list.
Hmm.
And that's just sort of like two different kind of mindsets or approaches to it. Like I'm gonna bring a bunch of people in and convert them right away with a funnel, or I'm gonna bring a bunch of people in who are, a good fit for your offer, meaning like that they're coaches, service providers, right? That's the other thing is that it's the same audience for my Pinterest
Yeah.
offer as it is for my right for high leverage content and share your values, share what you teach, right? And some of those people will buy other things that you offer as well.
Yeah.
So all of this to say, like, we would love for the whole like, lead magnets only bring freebie seekers, they'll never buy narrative to just like go away because too many people have believed it, and who knows what would have been possible for them if they really knew what was what, because they
Yeah.
may have believed it and not done what they needed to really leverage, lead magnets in a really good way. So,
I think one of the narratives around that and a commonality between the people saying that particularly is they've never taken their website seriously. They don't create long form content on their website. They're primarily Instagram or TikTok users.
yeah.
And they don't know how to connect a video to a free offer, which I feel like I've mastered very well.
Hmm.
And even with the Google updates not allowing me to tag free products on my YouTube videos, I just made all my freebies $1 and then I set up a marketing thing in my
Hmm.
Shopify store to automatically discount all those freebies that are
Yep.
$1 to $0. So it's still
Yep.
free.
I remember when you did that. It was such a good strategy. Yep.
And that just has worked so well. And I
Hmm.
just feel like a lot of people, if your primary method of creating content is short form, which is that kind of common thread with these people complaining about freebies not working,
Yeah.
it's really hard to sell people on getting on your email list in 60 seconds. It's really hard to sell lotion and potions and tonics and teas in
And
60
co and
seconds too.
and coaching.
Like,
And coaching and courses in my world. Yeah, totally.
yeah,
It's like,
no, there's just like a time and place
yeah,
and different types of content. And that was one of the things we had on our list that we didn't talk about is, maybe thinking only about creating an audience in one place with maybe like all your eggs in one basket. But
and it's not your email list, right? Like,
I digress.
well, no, because I was going to say before we wrap this up that like some people who know us well and came to watch this video probably are shocked that the number one thing that we didn't harp on this whole time, the number one mistake with growing your audience that we see people making is growing an audience in one place, like on Instagram, having all your eggs in one basket, and also having that one place not be your email list. Those are kind of like two different mistakes, is like not starting your email list and prioritizing it soon. And then, putting all your eggs in the Instagram basket. And it's usually Instagram, right? I mean, some people do it on
It's almost
TikTok. Some
always
people,
Instagram.
right. Or yeah, yeah, it's usually almost always Instagram when you see people
But the
doing that.
clock is actually ticking on the TikTok thing.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, especially now, for sure.
So better get
Yep.
your email list started. It's just something that I've been really focused on all of 2024 and especially going into 2025. I think it's going to be ever more important to create your own, um, your website, your blog. Even if you create a YouTube channel, you have to have an email list or a website that you're sending people to as well. I just think you have to have own domains.
Yep.
We kind of got away from that for a while. We kind of got lazy about it for a while.
Right.
Um,
We kind of got click funneled a little bit.
Yeah, but we really have to get back to basics of like owning that traffic and
Yeah.
owning that domain. There's actually been a lot of
Yep.
conversation lately around, website hosting and things like that. And
Hmm.
I actually went to show it because of this whole WordPress thing and said, hey, move me off WP Engine. I don't want to be tied to them
Hmm.
because of the WordPress drama. And they
Hmm.
did. They
Hmm.
moved. There were no arguments. They said, we'll get you moved right away. Thanks for
Wow.
asking.
Hmm.
So, like,
Interesting.
own your domains, get your email list started. Absolutely, that's a mistake I think people make. Stop putting
Hmm.
all your eggs in the Instagram Reels basket.
Yep.
You're tired because you're scrolling and your brain is fried.
Yeah.
Let's get off.
Yeah.
Let's get off the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Um, well, I hope that this was valuable for everyone and you got a little kick in the pants here at the end when I got feisty. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good. We had to mention it. Even though it wasn't one of the four we came with, we feel like we have to mention it.
I'm so sorry I got feisty. I promise
No,
to
it's
tone it
important.
down.
It's important.
So, Jana, before we wrap up, I just want to kind of cover our schedule for our viewers in the coming weeks. So, we are taking next week off, obviously, because of the holiday here in the US.
Gobble
We
gobble.
have American Thanksgiving. I say that because we have quite a bit of a Canadian audience, and their Thanksgiving is in October.
Yep.
And then we are back in January.
Right. We are just like we did last year. We're taking December off from
Yeah.
YouTube. We're both taking a lot of December off from a lot of things, and YouTube
Mhm.
is one of them, but we'll be back in January.
Back in January to talk about Pinterest growth with a minimum
Mhm.
viable strategy. Go and get notified. There's 2 YouTube videos for lives already scheduled for January. We will see you sprightly and rested after the new year. Great.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome.
We really are done until January now?
We really are done until